Hi guys! So for this video, I will be discussing to you on how to write formulas and name compounds. So let us start. So general rules in writing chemical formulas. So the systematic method of writing chemical formulas considers the compounds to be composed of two parts, one positive and one negative. So number one, the positive part, which is either a metal, hydrogen, or another positively charged group, is written first, followed by the negative part, generally nonmetals or radicals. So second, the charge of the positive part, or the positive ion, becomes the subscript of the negative part, or the negative ion, and the charge of the negative part becomes the subscript of the positive part. In short, cross method. Magpapalit lang yung charge ng positive part and then yung negative part. So third, the charges of the two parts are after combining are usually omitted. So yung charge na positive and negative are usually omitted pag nakapag-combine na tayo ng dalawang element natin or compounds. So if the subscript is 1, it is omitted. So pag yung subscript is 1, hindi na siya kailangang isulat or na-omit na siya. So polyatomic ions are enclosed in parentheses if their subscripts are more than 1. So, yung polyatomic ion natin is enclosed in a parenthesis pag yung subscript is greater than 1. Pero pag 1, and then wala siyang parenthesis. So, note, if applicable, always reduce the subscript to smallest whole number. Subscript na sinasabi natin is a relative number present in the compound written on the right side of the ion. And this subscript denotes the number of the atom of each element. And when no subscript is written, the subscript 1 is omitted. So, pag wala ng subscript na nakasulat, then it is understand that it has one atom for a certain element. So example, so we have here Mg, NCl, and yung charge ng Mg natin is 2 positive, and for our chlorine is 1 negative. And then pag combine lang natin, and then doing the crisscross method, etong charge na to mapupunta dito sa Cl, and then itong charge naman na to is mapupunta sa Mg. So, ang final product natin is MgCl2. So, notice that the charges are already omitted and then yung 2 is nasa chlorine na. So, the 2 plus is the charge or valence of Mg. So, from the formula, Mg1Cl2, so dapat Mg1Cl2. Pero yung subscript of magnesium is 1, so therefore, it is omitted and thus the formula becomes MgCl2. So, naging MgCl2 na instead of Mg1Cl2. So, another example, we have here NH4 na may charge na positive 1 and then SO4 na may charge na negative 2. So, combining NH4 positive 1 and then SO4 to negative 2, and then doing the crisscross method, we have open and close parentheses, NH4, then my 2, and then SO4 na my 1. So, since yung subscript niya is 1, then no need na kailang lagyan ng parentheses. Understood na meron 1 atom for SO4. So, another example, we have yung Al 3 positive and PO4 3 negative. So combining, so doing the crisscross method, we have Al3 PO4 3. So since it has the same subscript, then we can reduce it or cancel. So, naging AlPO4. Another example, we have Ng2 plus and S2 negative. So, combining and then doing the crisscross method, we have Mg2S2. So, it has, magkapareho na naman yung subscript. So, it is reduced to Mgs. So, let's start by naming the binary ionic compounds. And binary ionic compounds, or it is a compounds containing atoms of two different elements, are called binary compounds. So, when one element is a metal and the other is a non-metal, the resulting compound usually has mainly ionic bonding. So, to name ionic compound, first give the name of the metallic element which always appears first in the chemical formula. So, yung metallic element in a binary ionic compounds is always appear on the first nung chemical formula, and follow this with the name of the non-metallic element with its last word or two syllables changed to the suffix na oxide. So, let's have an example. We have here Al3 positive and O2 negative. So, combining and doing the cross method, so we have Al2O3. And sabi natin kanina that yung metal is named by gave name natin siya with its name. So, yung metal natin dito is aluminum and yung non-metal is oxygen. So, aluminum and then oxygen, palitan natin yung last syllables to IDE, so naging oxide. Yung root word kasi ng oxygen is ox. So, ayun. So, another, we have potassium K, which is positive 1, and fluorine na may charge na negative 1. So, combining and then doing the cross method, so we have KF. So, yung charges naman nila is 1, so no need to write. And then, same process, name the metallic element. So, potassium, and then fluorine, yung root word fluor, and then add natin ng IDE. So, fluoride. And then, another example, we have Na na may positive 1 na charge, and then S na may 2 negative na charge. Combining and then crisscross method, yung 2 napunta dito, yung 1 napunta dyan. So, Na2S. And then, yung metallic element, sodium. And then, yung non-metal is sulfur. Yung root word ng sulfur is sulf. So, plus IDE. So, sodium sulfide. So, ayun. We can also name binary ionic compounds using the old system and the stock system. So, for the old system, we will just have the OUS and the IC suffixes, and for the stock system is using Roman numerals. So, the metallic element can be named by adding the suffixes OUS or IC at the end of the name of the metal, or can be named using Roman numerals. So, note that some metallic element has more than one possible charges, such as yung copper natin na may positive and negative, two negative charge. But before that, if you're adding OUS na suffix, it has the lower charge. And for IC, it has the higher charge. So, kasi some of our metallic element has one or more possible charges. Like yung copper natin, we have Cu positive 1 and then Cu2 positive. So, for Cu positive 1, it is cuprous, or in Roman numerals, copper, open and close parenthesis 1. So, for copper 2 positive naman, we have cupric, or copper, open and close positive 2. So, we also have yung manganese natin. We have 2 positive and then 3 positive. So, same. So, for Mn na 2 positive, manganese or manganese, open and close 2. For Mn na 3 positive charge, we have manganic or manganese, open and close 3. So, let's have an example. So, for this, by combining Sn2 plus and then Cl negative 1. So, applying cross method, we have Sn and then Cl2. So, Sn is the metal and stannous, meaning it has a lower charge. Mas may lower charge siya. And then chloride. So, say, and then for Roman numeral naman is tin 2 chloride. So, tin 2 chloride. Yung Sn is tin in the periodic table. So, tin 2 chloride. So, another, we have Sn4Cl1. So, we have SnCl4. So, ito na. Mas lower yung charge ng Sn2 and then Sn4. So, dito na, stannic chloride na yung pangalan and tin 4 chloride. So, another example, yung kakasabi lang natin kanina na copper. So, it has a lower charge which is 1 and then oxygen na to. So, Cu2O. So, yung name is cuprous oxide and then copper oxide. So, for another example, Pb4 plus and then O2 negative. So, applying cross method, we have Pb2NO4. So, since divisible sila ng 2, then we can reduce. So, naging PbO2. And then, yung name is plumbic oxide or lead-4 oxide. Meaning, yung Pb has mas higher charge siya. So, mas may lower charge, mas may mababa pang charge ng Pb. So, next, for our naming is naming binary covalent compounds. And covalent compounds are compounds formed from combination of a nonmetal and a nonmetal. So, dito, pag combine natin yung nonmetal and nonmetal. So, in naming binary covalent compounds, if there is only one atom of the first element in the formula, merely name that element. So, if more than one atom, use one of the following prefixes to indicate the number of atoms of the element present in the chemical formula. So, if we have one atom, then it is mono, or, ayun. So, 2, di, and tri, 3, tetra for 4, penta for 5, hexa for 6, hepta for 7, octa for 8, and nona for 9, and then deca for 10. Second, follow rule number 1 in naming the second element with its 1 or 2 last syllables changed to the suffix IDE and use one of the prefixes listed in rule number 1 before the name of the element to indicate the number of atoms of the element in the chemical formula. In this case, the prefix mono is normally used to indicate that the formula contains only one atom of the second element. So, pag yung mas naunang element natin has a subscript 1, so di natin siya lalagyan ng mono. So, tsaka lang tayo maglalagay ng mono pag na may subscript 1 kapag yung element natin is the second element in the chemical formula. So, example, this one. CO. So yung subscript niya is 1 and 1 for the second. So, sabi natin that pag 1 yung subscript for the first element, just name as it is yung name niya. Carbon, and then 1 yung subscript for the second element. So, mono, and then yung root word, ox, and then IDE. Add IDE as a fix. So, the O is omitted from mono. So, yung O from the monoxide is not, etong una to is not from the mono but from the oxygen. Kasi we have a rule that when pag nagkatabi yung the vowels in the naming, for example, ito, mono, then oxygen, nagkatabi yung dalawang vowels, which is O. So, the vowels that is omitted is galing sa prefix. So, na-omit siya from the mono. So, another example, we have CO2. So, carbon dioxide naman to. Dioxide. So, we have 2 oxygen atoms, so dioxide. So, meron siyang exemption pag di. So, yun lang yung exemption ng vowels pag di. Ayun. So, another, we have N2O5, or the name is nitrogen pentoxide, and A is omitted from the penta. So, ayun, yung vowel is na-omit from the penta, yung prefix. So, another, PCl5, so, 1 yung subscript, so name as it is, phosphorus, and then chlorine with 5 atoms. So, chlorine, pentachloride, chloride. So, yung root word ng chlorine is chlor, and then I add IDE. So, A is not omitted from the penta. So, ayun. Hindi na na-omit yung A from the penta kasi consonant na yung katabi niya, which is C. Another is Cl2O7. So, yung name nito is dichlorine heptoxide. A is omitted from the hepta kasi yung katabi na naman is a vowel. So, we are now done naming binary covalent compounds. So, let's proceed in the naming of ternary and higher ionic compounds. So, ternary or higher ionic compounds are formed from 3 or more different elements. So, in naming ternary or higher compounds, the positive ion is named first, followed by the negative ion, and then the procedure is the same as that from naming binary or ionic compounds, except that we use the name of the polyatomic ion or ions. So, let's have an example. So, we have here Na plus and NO2 negative 1. So, combining and then applying the crisscross cross method, so we have NaO2. So, yung name nito is sodium nitrite. So, another example, we have Fe2 plus and then SO4 2 negative, and then combining, so we have here same na charges, so mare-reduce, so FeSO4. So yung name nito is ferrous sulfate or iron 2 sulfate. So yung naming na nitong ternary and higher ionic compounds is the combination of naming the binary ionic compound and then yung binary covalent compounds. So the third is Ca2 plus and then PO4 3 negative. So applying the crisscross method, I mean, Ca3 and then PO4 2. So yung name nitong compound na to is calcium phosphate. Another example, we have NH4 1 plus that has positive 1 charge and then PO4 3 negative, and then combining, so we have open and close parentheses NH4 and then 3 PO4. So yung name nito NH4 we know to be ammonium and then PO4 phosphate. So fifth, we have Mg2 plus and then OH positive 1. So, applying again the cross method, we have MgOH2 or magnesium hydroxide. Next is naming inorganic compounds. So, inorganic compounds are compounds containing hydrogen such as HCl, H2SO4, and H3PO4 that liberates hydrogen ions that has H and a positive 1 charge in an aqueous solution. So, obviously, not all compounds containing hydrogens are acid. Example, H2O or what we know to be water. Water is not an acid. Also with ammonia na NH3 and NaOH and then NaHCO3 are not acids which are bases. And not note that in a compounds just listed, the H does not appear first in the formula. So, masasabi lang natin na acid yung compound if yung H is the first element in the compound. So to indicate a compound that can act as an acid in an aqueous solution, the symbol from hydrogen usually appears in the first of the formula. So ayun na yung sinabi ko. And there are two major classes of inorganic acids, those that lack oxygen atoms and those that include oxygen atoms. So which is the non-oxygen acids and the oxyacids. So for the non-oxygen acids, it contains one or more hydrogen atoms combined with a simple nonmetal ion or a polyatomic negative ion that does not contain oxygen. So example, HCl and then HCN. So for oxyacid naman, there are ternary compounds that contain hydrogen, oxygen, and one other element. So like H2SO4. So hydrogen, other element, and then yung oxygen natin. HNO3. So hydrogen, oxygen, and the other element. So let's start with the naming of non-oxygen acids. So non-oxygen acids are named by attaching the prefix hydro to the name of the negative ion. So next is replacing the last syllable of its name with the suffix IC and adding the word acid. So parang ganito. So hydro plus yung root word of the negative ion plus IC and then add lang tayo ng acid. So example, HCl. So hydro and then yung negative ion natin which is the Cl. So hydro, yung root word for chlorine is chlor and then mag-add lang tayo ng IC. So hydrochloric acid. Another is HF. So hydro, negative ion, we have fluorine. So hydrofluor and fluoric acid. So HCN. Yung negative ion natin is the cyanide which is the CN. And then HCN, so hydrocyanic cyanic acid. So H2S. So ito naman is hydrosulfuric acid. So next is naming ternary oxyacids. So first, you must determine the negatively charged polyatomic ion in the acid, and this is done by writing out the polyatomic ion that follows the hydrogen ion or the ions. Next, then from the knowledge of the negatively charged ions, you should be able to determine its charge and the name and then follow this rule. So if the ending of the negatively charged polyatomic ion is negative is ATE, replace ATE to IC and add acid. While if the ending of the negatively charged polyatomic ion is ITE, replace ITE with OUS and then add acid. So pag yung ending nung name nung negatively charged ion natin is ATE, change lang natin yung ATE with IC and then add acid. So, in the other hand, pag yung negatively charged ion naman natin has an ending of ITE, change lang natin yung ITE with OUS and then mag-a-add lang tayo ng acid. So, examples, HNO3. So, yung negative ion natin is NO3 and then yung name nito is nitrate. So, yung pangalan nito is excuse me, nitric acid. So, yung ending nito is ATE. So, let's change ATE with IC. So, naging nitric acid. So, another, HNO2. So, NO2 as our negative ion and then nitrite yung pangalan niya. So, i-change natin yung ITE into OUS. So, yung pangalan naman nito is nitrous acid. So, next, HClO3 and yung negative ion natin is yung ClO3. So, yung pangalan ng ClO3 is chlorate. So, let's change this ATE to IC. So, chloric acid. HClO3. So, yung negative ion naman natin is ClO2 negative. So, chlorite naman yung pangalan nito and then change lang natin yung ITE to OUS, so chlorous acid. So, we are now done with naming the oxygen acid, inorganic acids, I should say. So, we move on to the naming of bases. So, substances that yields hydroxide ions or OH negative when dissolved in water. So, yun naman yung mga bases natin. So, example, we have NaOH. So, name lang natin yung first element with its name. So, sodium and then yung OH is hydroxide. So, yung name nito is sodium hydroxide. So, for KOH, so K, potassium, so potassium hydroxide. Ba and then OH, 2, so barium and then hydroxide. So, as easy as that for naming our bases. So, next is hydrated ionic compounds. And these have a specific number of water molecules in their chemical formulas in the solids, and these water molecules are part of the structure of the compound. So, the ionic compound is named first by using the roles for naming ionic compounds. And Greek prefixes are attached to the word hydrate to indicate the number of water molecules per formula unit for the compounds. Yung Greek prefixes is yung mono, di, tri, ganun. So, when the chemical formula for a hydrated ionic compound is written, the formula for the ionic compound is separated from the water of hydration by a centered dot. So, merong tuldok dun sa center. So, let's have an example for hydrated ionic compounds. So, we have here BaOH2 and then we have the dot and 8H2O. So, we have this ionic compound which is named to be base. Ito ay base. Which is named to be barium hydroxide and then we have 8H2O, so octahydrate. So, yung name ng water dito is hydrate. So, we have 8 water, so octahydrate. So, another, we have BaCl2 and then that H2O. So, barium chloride and then monohydrate kasi we have 1 water. And then, another example, we have LiCl and then 7H2O. So, we have lithium chloride and then heptahydrate kasi 7. So, ayon. So, that ends our discussion for the writing and naming of chemical compounds. So, hope you have learned something from this video. So, thank you for listening and see you again for the next lecture.